All right. Hello. Welcome to a live recording of the Purpose and Pixie Dust podcast. I am Lindsay Dollinger, and I'm here today with Bevin Farrand, who I'm so excited for you guys to hear some more from. I just love Bevin's story. So, Bevin, thank you for being on the show, and tell us a little bit about you. How did you get to what you are doing now? We want the whole story.
The whole story. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be with you. And I love what you're doing for women who want to grow businesses, but maybe don't want to quit everything to do it. Maybe don't want to burn it all down to do it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
So my story really started back in 2019, or what is the current iteration of what I do started in 2019. So um, Mother's Day of 2019, my husband Mark surprised me that he was going to take us on a whirlwind trip to France for my 40th birthday, which would be 6 months later. So we were starting to plan, diving into it, so excited. We weren't going to take our kids. It was going to be our first trip away without them. And then 2 weeks later, I went in for what I thought was going to be a promotion, and instead I got laid off. And yeah, so we had a 4-month-old and a 2-year-old at home. I had just taken maternity leave, taken money out of our savings to make that happen. So we were totally reeling. We were very much a 2-income family. This was not what we were expecting. And about 2 weeks after that, Mark and I were walking. We live in the country. We were walking down the road with no sidewalks. And I said to him, I don't think I'm going to look for a job. And he was an engineer, so I could feel his brain explode in his head. But I said to him, Mark, this is the third time that I've lost my job for one reason or another in under 10 years. And I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to put our financial health into the hands of any one person ever again. So at that point, I decided to start my own business. And I was taking everything I had learned over the past 10 years as a digital marketer, brand strategist, launch strategist, and I was going to use it to help small businesses and entrepreneurs grow their business to 5, 6, and 7 figures. And I said to him, let's just set up some benchmarks and see if this is even a viable option. And so I wanted to make my very first dollar, right? That's always our very first benchmark when we were starting a business is, can we make even $1? And then I said, I want to make $5,000 by the end of August to see if this is a viable proof of concept. So I did. I made my first $1,000 in July. And by the end of August, I had made $5,000. And by the time we left for our trip, which was in November, which by the way, we still thought was totally crazy, I had made $35,000 in my business. So we decided
Wow,
to
that's
go. Yeah,
incredible.
it was really exciting to me to be making back so much of the money that I had lost when I lost my job. So we decided to go, even though we said, look, we're going to be in planes the same amount of time we're going to be on the ground. This is absolutely bonkers. But we went, had an amazing time, spent my 40th birthday wandering through Bordeaux with my best friend and love of my life, eating delicious food, drinking great wine. And we came back, and that week was Thanksgiving. And so we had taken the whole week off work. We got stuff ready around the house and took our daughter to her first movie theater show. It's pre-pandemic, so we had 25 people coming for Thanksgiving. And the day after Thanksgiving, my husband didn't wake up. He passed away in the middle of the night, completely unexpectedly. He weighed the same he did in high school. We had no indication that this was coming. He had undiagnosed heart disease. One of his arteries was 95% blocked, the other was 50% blocked. And so now I am a solo parent of 2 kids under the age of 3, an entrepreneur with a business that was doing well, but had not yet stood the test of time. And I'm doing all of this without my best friend and the love of my life, and honestly, the guy who was my biggest cheerleader by my side. And so I started to about a month later, I made a post on Facebook talking about my birthday and the trip and losing Mark. And I ended it by saying, whenever we're faced with the choice, just take the damn trip. And that really resonated with people. And I got so many messages from people saying, I was going to say no to this trip, but now I'm going to go. Or I took this amazing trip with my parents right before they passed away, and it meant the world to me. Or, I'm not going to keep pushing things to the side anymore. I'm going to go all in on my dream. And it started because it started to shift. Well, I shifted it. It didn't start to shift. Over time, I shifted it to take the damn chance, because it is not about just taking a trip and going on a great vacation. It's really taking the chance on yourself and taking the chance on that dream that you keep pushing to the side. And as I thought back over the hardest things that I had been through, not just losing Mark, but getting laid off 3 times and going through years of fertility treatments to have my kiddos and losing my home in a house fire, like all of these hard things that I had been through, but then also the most amazing things that I've created. I grew that business from 0 to $600,000 in 3 years, even in the middle of a pandemic, even while grieving the loss of my husband, even while being a solo parent to kiddos. And that, as I looked back at those things and I asked myself, how am I different? How do I do things differently? And that is where I came up with the DAM framework. So I say DAM all the time, right? Like, take the damn chance. My podcast is all the damn things, but DAM stands for something. It stands for decide and declare, attend your own party, moments, not minutes, and now is the time. And when we apply those 4 mindsets to business, relationships, personal dreams, it makes all the difference in achieving those goals. And so that is how I founded the Take the Damn Chance movement. And really everything I do is based around that.
I think your story is so powerful. So, I mean, I know I have heard it several times at this point, and I'm still just like, for lack of a better word, I'm just like, damn. Like,
That's what I want people to say, right?
right, right. Man, so how were you able to go from like that shock and that grief to like, okay, I've got to do something? Because like you said, you were the solo breadwinner and you have these 2 girls, and like what does that look like for those people out there who are going through something really hard like that, and they're like, I just don't know how I'm going to move forward?
Well, I'd like to be super clear that this was not something that I popped up the next day and said, I'm going to start a movement, right? There were days and weeks where I felt like I could barely get up off the closet floor, right? It's just curled up, sobbing, could hardly do it. And I boiled it down to a couple of things. One is I got really, really clear on my top priorities. And at that point, they were my kids, keeping my kids healthy and safe, my own health and safety, and keeping our house, because Mark and I had built this house together. In order to do those things, I needed to keep my business running. I also got a lot of validation is the wrong word, but I got a lot of comfort from my business. And so I went back to work with a few clients about a month after Mark passed away. And they were like, take as much time as you need. And I said, no, I am dealing with life insurance policies, 401k. Like, I'm so ineffective at so many things, so much red tape, that I need to be doing something that makes me feel effective. And that helped me. And so one of the things I teach is what I call movement over mindset. And that is that sometimes we just need to get into movement. We just need to get into action. It doesn't matter what our mindset is. Now, that is not to say we don't give ourselves time to grieve. We don't let ourselves be sad. But we don't have to change our mindset before we get into action. So I could say, I need to do something to feel effective. I'm not going to wait until all the grief is gone, because it's never going to be gone. So I think that's it, is boiling it down to what is your top priority and why, and then taking micro actions towards it.
Okay, for those who might not be able to wrap their head around a micro action, can you give an example of what that might be in your business or even in
Yeah.
your
Yeah. So a micro action is the smallest possible action that you will actually take. So a lot of times people say, oh, I'm taking this small step, right? I'm going to make my website, or I'm going to write my first blog post, or whatever it is. And then they don't do it and they think, oh, I just must not be very committed. No, the action is too big. because so you need to break it down to the smallest possible action that you will actually take. So for example, if it's business, right? And you're thinking, I have to make a website, just go buy the URL. Like that's the tiny little action. If you need to write an email or a blog post and you're finding yourself paralyzed, just open the document. Just write the first word, because doing those micro actions helps you build momentum. We think we need to get inspired to get into action, but actually getting into action brings us more inspiration. That's why we get our best ideas like in the shower or on a run, because we're in action. And then the moment and inspiration can catch up, because truly the hardest place to be is standing still. It's
Yeah.
at the start of your idea or the start of a new piece of your project, because that's where inertia is. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. You actually have to do tiny little steps to keep your feet moving. And then the steps get bigger and they come faster and they become easier. But you
Mhm.
start teeny tiny.
I love that you said that inspiration can come after the action, because I think so much that a lot of times we're like, I'm just waiting to feel motivated. I'm waiting to feel inspired. And it's
Sure.
like, that might not come, or it might not come for a really long time. So we get to do just something little tiny today, and then maybe it'll come.
And it's probably not sustainable, right? If we're only waiting for inspiration,
Yeah.
it's not sustainable. And then there are going to be days where you're having a bad day, you're sad, you're frustrated, you're angry, whatever that is, you're overwhelmed, and you don't feel inspired, right? But you can say, I'm just going to set my clock and do 15 minutes of micro actions, and then I can be done,
Yeah.
right? And then, but a lot of times by doing like the 15 minutes, then you've picked up enough motivation, enough inspiration to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into the DAM framework work just
Yeah.
a little bit. So can you go through again what each of those letters mean, and maybe just a little bit more of an explanation of what those could look like?
Sure. So the first is decide and declare. And really, the D is like the foundation of everything the DAM framework is, because decide is really how we start. I call it your DAM manifesto. And you can have a DAM manifesto truly for every area of your life. And what it is, it's your yes and your six-dimensional why. And so your yes is, what is your top priority right now? It doesn't have to be forever, but what is the thing that you want more than anything else right now? Because when everything is a priority, nothing is. So we decide what that yes is. We put it through, I call it the trip filter. So we ask ourselves, are we willing to make it our top priority? Are we willing to resource it? Is it inspiring? And is it personal? Is it your dream, the one you're going at? The one you want, not the one somebody else thinks you should want. So when you find your yes, you pair it with what I call your six-dimensional why. And the reason I'm so passionate about the six-dimensional why is that we can't hang our dreams on one flimsy little why. People will say, start a business for the money, right? Like do it to make more money. Well, when you're not making money, it's real hard, then that's not enough. Or I'm a mom, obviously, and so I'll get a lot like, do it for your kids. Well, when my kids have kept me up all night and I'm tired and I would just as soon take a nap, they're not enough of a why. So we flesh out a fully six-dimensional why. And then if like, let's just say, I'll tell you the six dimensions here in a second. But so if I'm not making enough money at the time, and that's my financial why, but emotionally my business makes me really proud, then I'm going to rest on that part of it. So the six dimensions are financial, emotional, mental, physical, social, and spiritual. And if you don't want to write all those down, you can just go to sixdimensionalwhy.com and you can get the questions I ask to start to kind of give you the brain joggers to think about what's so important about it. But once you get those two things together, that creates your DAM manifesto, and you put it into a super simple to say, easy to remember statement that becomes your touchstone. So like mine is, I want to share the DAM framework with as many people as possible in as many ways as possible. That's my yes. And my my why, like fleshed into this, is in order to create a sustainable, thriving business that both supports and inspires my family and the world. So when I'm struggling because I'm tired, or I'm not making as much money as I want to make, or I'm learning something new, so I'm frustrated, I just go back to that and I say, this is what I want. I want to share this framework so I can support and inspire my family and the world. And that helps me move forward.
I love that.
Yeah.
What is the manifesto for those? Let's break this down even further.
Yeah. So that, I mean, so the damn manifesto really becomes like the touchstone you kind of rest yourself on, but your business on, right? And so what's so great about it, like I said, you have your yes and your 6-dimensional why, then we craft it into something easy to remember. And then the other great thing about it, not just that it helps you when you're feeling overwhelmed, but you can then hold new ideas up to it and say, is this in support and service of my damn manifesto? So,
Mhm.
like, if I get offered a project management job, right? Like that was what I was known for years, was project management, launch strategy. If somebody offers me a position, even if it's a lot of money, I hold it up to that damn manifesto and I say, is this in service of, does this allow me to share this framework with as many people as possible? No, it does not. Great. Then it's a no.
Ooh, I
Or
love
if it's like, okay, I'm still kind of interested, then it's like, okay, so now I need to revisit my yes. So
yeah.
we like, that is why the damn manifesto. And again, you can do it for relationships. You could say, like, I want to create a connected, committed, powerful relationship. Is this idea in service of that? No. Okay, well then we're going to say no to it,
Okay.
right?
You could have different ones in different
Mhm.
areas of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I created one for health and fitness. I have kind of mini ones for like being a parent, right? Like I want to be the best loving parent I can be for these particular kiddos. And there are times where I've said, okay, this idea, this is not in support of that family that I want to create. And so we have to step away. Like, for example, my son was not doing well in his preschool. And so he got a spot at my daughter's preschool. And I said, okay, what is in best service of him? Like, I want to be the best mom I can be for him. I want to support him and his creativity. The new preschool is the way to go.
Mm.
And so we made the switch. So it just helps us always say, what do I want the most in these areas of my life? And
Yeah.
then the other half of the D is to declare. And people hear that and they think, cool, I need to make this big post on social media, right? Like you want me to just like shout it from the rooftops. And that is actually not what I want people to do, because too often we declare it to the world before we have the confidence in it. And we end up derailing ourselves because we get a bunch of doubting people coming and saying, are you sure you want to do, are you sure you want to start this side hustle? Are you sure you want to, you don't want to quit your job, not in this economy? All of that, side hustle that you're particularly looking at, that's like way past its prime. Nobody's doing that anymore. And you don't have the confidence and the foundation yet to stand up to that. So we do what I call layered declarations. And you start with just 2 to 3 people who their only job is to be your cheerleaders. It's just to say, that sounds like a great idea. Like, I think you should definitely run with that. Tell me more about that. And you're not always going to just have this blind support, but it is just a way for you to start building some momentum, getting some confidence, getting more clarity on it, what it is that you want. Then you bring in your next layer, which is, more sort of close friends, people who you might want counsel from, you want support from. Then as you're building up more momentum from there, you take it to the next layer and you're actually building up these layers of support as you're building confidence, clarity, momentum, so that you can withstand a little bit more question than when you first started.
Yeah, that's totally what we talked about. So for everyone who doesn't know, I was on Bevin's podcast. I don't know when this is airing exactly, but you can go back and find me on that podcast. We were talking a lot about that. I think was I forget what we were calling it, but just like being choosy about who you are sharing your dream to. And I love that layered
Yeah.
concept because it's so true. Like who you share those things with can make a huge difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't tell this part of the story, but I used this framework to bring my like biggest, boldest dream to life, which was that I decided to move forward with the IVF that Mark and I had been planning when he passed away. And I gave birth to his and my third daughter 20 months after he passed away. And when I started to think about that, I told some people who were not supportive, and they thought, "Oh, what if one of your kids gets sick, or what if you have a medically fragile child, and how is that going to impact your family, and how can you do this without Mark?" And they were not my 2 to 3 cheerleaders, right? They were way out on the outer layers. And so I didn't talk to them about it anymore when I was still in the beginning baby phases, right? I had 2 to 3 people who their only job was to be saying, "Yay for an ultrasound. You had a blood test. You took 7 pregnancy tests." Like that was their only job. And then as things developed, I added a few more people in. I added a few more people in. Look, your business is a baby. When you first have the idea, it's a newborn. You wouldn't hand your newborn to some random stranger on the street. Let him be a 6-year-old before you bring that in.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to think about it too, is who would you trust your baby with versus who do you trust your 15-year-old with? It's a little bit different, although there's still some boundaries there,
Of
but
course, yeah, I said, "Wait, you shouldn't really hand your 6-year-old to a
on the
stranger on
street.
the
Yeah,
street
yeah.
either," but you knew where I
I
was
don't
going
have
with
kids, but yeah, that's still stranger danger.
that.
I love that. So, just curious because I know this has come up for you, and how do you handle, because people listening to this, I know some of them. How do you handle being a single mom with 3 kids and the breadwinner?
Yeah.
How do you find time to fit it all in?
I have a lot of help. I mean, there's 2 areas of this. You're probably gonna hear my kids in the background here in a minute. There's 2 pieces of it. I have a lot of help at home. So I, have a nanny. She's been with us since before Mark passed away. So she's truly become part of the family. And I know that my business has to reach a certain level so that I can afford to continue to have that support. Now, I've known, because, I was an entrepreneur and I've worked from home for over 10 years. And so even when we got pregnant with my first daughter, I said to Mark, "We have to have childcare. I cannot do the level of work that I want to do while also having kids climb all over me." And so we knew we had to keep that going. And so we had to put that in place. So I have a lot of help. I outsource as much as I can at home. But I also have a team for my business. And so I've got my assistant who's been with me for 2 years. I've got a podcast producer. I've got, a writing team that I work with, all these things, because I know that I cannot do it all myself. And sometimes when people are starting their business, they're scared to give any of that money away. They're scared to hire anybody. And so I would just encourage people to do the math. And so what I mean by that is, let's say you have an assistant, somebody you pay $25 an hour, $20, let's say $20 an hour, and they work for you for 5 hours in a week and you pay them $100, then you need to just make sure that you're using those 5 hours in a way that can make you that $100 or more. Or you're using it to spend time with your family and your kids, but it's on things that you don't want to waste your time on. So none of us can do it alone, right? We can't. There's this myth of this solo warrior is a myth. It does not exist that anybody does it by themselves.
I love that you said that because I really wish more people shared that side of things,
Oh, yeah.
because I know I thought for so long that everyone was doing it by themselves. And then I would, talk to people one-on-one or whatever. And I'm like, wait, you don't write your posts? I'm like, wait, you don't do that. And it was just like mind blown. And
Yeah.
so I've really tried to be very outspoken about that. Like, hey, you don't have to do everything alone. And like you
Yeah.
said, you can get a lot of really quality work done with a low budget. We'll just put it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's certain things, right? I'm not gonna pay my executive assistant the same amount of money that I might pay a VA. I'm not gonna pay, I'm gonna pay more for my podcast producer. Like there's different levels of experience and skill set, all of those things. And we have to be honest about that, right? You're not gonna get everything for $5 an hour.
Yeah.
And that's not the quality of work that you would necessarily want. But if you say, okay, I can set aside X amount of dollars,
Mhm.
what would be the best use? It's very much of what can you take off your plate? What are you not very good at?
Yep.
What do you not enjoy?
Mhm.
Get that off your plate first, because then you're going to want to do the things that you enjoy and that you are good at more.
Or
So
like
yeah,
you said,
I have a lot of help.
yeah, or like you said, your nanny. Like, it doesn't always have to be stuff specifically for your business, but that's someone who can help you out with your kids so that you can have that dedicated time to work your business.
Yeah, you know what's so interesting? Mark and I were flying back from Bordeaux. We were making a list of everything. I said, I need to hire somebody, right? I need to hire somebody. Let's do a brain dump of everything that they could take off my plate. And we realized that a lot of what we needed taken off our plate was around the house.
Mm,
And I don't know why it is, but in this society, we have this feeling that we can hire babysitters to watch our kids while we do things around the house.
yeah,
But why can't we just hire someone to do the things around the house so we can play with our kids?
yeah, yeah.
And so for a while, I had somebody who came in and they did the laundry and they just did things around the house for 5 hours a week.
Yep,
Um, I've had some health concerns, and so I'm having to make a lot of dietary changes. So I have somebody who comes in once a month and cooks meals that I know that I can eat,
yep,
so that I am not spending hours researching and hours cooking instead that I don't enjoy.
yeah,
And instead I can just throw food in the microwave or the oven and eat and enjoy the time with my kids.
yeah, yeah. And I like that perspective shift as well because one of the first things that I hired out was like my grass being mowed. And I'm like,
Us too.
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Those guys and their team can mow this whole thing in an hour. And to me, it takes like 6. I hate
Right?
every second of it. It
Yep.
doesn't look good, right? So I'm like, "No, worth it. Best money spent." The
And I
wash.
had to do that math for Mark. This was before he had passed away, but we have 2 acres.
Yeah.
And so we have an acre field that we just hardly ever mowed, but we have an acre around the house and there's this
Mhm.
hill, and Mark was push mowing it. And
No.
so it was taking him like all day on Saturday. And
Yeah.
I said, Mark, let's just get a quote. We got a quote and it was like $80. I
Yep.
said, it's $80 and it frees up your entire Saturday to
Yeah.
spend time with your family. And if you're really that concerned, then work 2 hours
Yep.
of overtime, whatever, to make that money back and
Yep.
pay for it. But yes, best money. I love having
Mhm.
flowers. I don't like to weed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So delegate the stuff that's really draining you,
Mhm.
because it's not only the money, but it's like your energy
Mhm.
is a much it's non-renewable resources are time and energy. We cannot get time back. We can make more money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a huge mindset shift for a lot of people as well because they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." Like, "But I don't know how to make more," and you're like, "Well, then we get to deep dive into that." But yeah, time is not a
Especially
renewable.
women. We
Mhm.
as women, when I was doing research, we as women are far more likely to donate our time than our
Mhm.
money, and men are traditionally more likely to donate money than time. But sometimes I'll think about it and I said, okay, so I can either spend 8 hours at this fundraiser, what have you, or I can write a check.
Yeah.
And sometimes they need volunteers. And don't get me wrong, like sometimes
Right.
that is necessary. But if it's in exchange for, I'm like, I don't have the time. So
Yeah.
I would love to support you with my money.
Yeah. Perfect. And I think that's a reminder for people as well. Because sometimes I have a lot of network marketers that listen to this and they will immediately ask people for like a party or to join their team and they get shut down and then they don't go for well, would you like to try the product? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that might be another way that people can support you that you should just ask, like throw it out there,
Yeah.
because not everyone wants the time invested in a party or is interested in the business opportunity, and
Yeah.
vice versa. You have to remember that everyone wants a little different thing.
Yeah. When I talk to people about support, because I believe we like confuse permission and support, and we don't need anybody's permission to go after our big dreams.
Yeah.
But we can ask for their support. But we have to realize that you will get so you need to know whether you need specific support or support from a specific person. Because
Mm,
if you need specific support, you need financial funding, you need marketing help, you need someone to spread the word, you need somebody to book parties. That may not be from the people you think it's going to be from, right?
yeah.
That's specific. So you might have to ask a lot more people to get
Mhm.
that. But if you need support from a specific person, maybe you really need to know that your sister supports you or your mom or your friend. It may not look the way you think it will. So
Yeah.
you might, like you just said, you might ask somebody, "Hey, do you want to join this team?" And they say no. If you need support from that person, then ask, "Well, how can we make this work? Would
Yeah.
you like to try the product? Would you be willing to do, whatever it is?" But coming up with a way that you then still feel supported by
Yeah.
that person, but it just might not be exactly the way you thought it was going to be.
Oh, that's really powerful. Yeah. And that also goes back to, I feel like, those different levels of people in your life. I know we talked
Mhm.
about this before, but your best friend might not be the one to offer you the kind of support that you think that she should. Um,
Mhm.
but when we project that on other people, we have to remember that it's not the same as what we might do for other people, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Bevin, this has been so good. Tell my audience, where can they connect with you? Where can they find you? How can they work with you? And I will make sure that this all gets in the show notes too, so you guys
I love
can.
that we got through D, just so you know. I like
I
that
know.
we got
We
through
really
one letter.
you gotta come back. I'll have to bring you back on, and then we can go through A and then a follow-up
There's
to that.
there's so much always you and I talking. It's like we go down so
I
many great
know, I
paths that
know.
you don't want to stop. So obviously you guys love listening to podcasts, so you can go check out my podcast, which is All the Damn Things. And that podcast is really supporting women in achieving their goals, particularly women who've been through deeply challenging experiences. And that is self-defined. Sometimes that is losing somebody, losing a job, losing a parent, whatever that is, but something that has really, I say it makes you stop and go, damn,
Yeah.
that was hard. And how can you still achieve your dreams after that, even with that? And that's really the best way right now to learn about everything that I'm doing. Other than that, I'm Bevin Farrand everywhere on Instagram, Facebook, but come listen to the podcast.
And you have a free Facebook group as well, right?
I do. It's the Take the Damn Chance Facebook community.
Yes, and she does awesome trainings in there too, guys, so make sure that you hop in there, and, that's actually how I found you, and I don't even remember how I found the group. Like, I feel like I found the group first, and then
Yeah, I think we're like we're like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon here. Like
yeah.
I feel like we have friends of friends and
Oh,
somehow
yeah, for
got
sure.
connected. Yeah, exactly.
That's like the magic of social media. But well, thank you again. And everyone, when you listen to this, make sure that you screenshot it, tag us both on social. We'll be sure to share you out. And we want to hear what your biggest takeaway was, because I'm sure you got a lot out of today's chat. Thanks again, Bevin.
Thanks, Lindsay.